Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, don't get cooked, stay off the hook. Splatoon 2 is Goosoo Boo. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, joined as always by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. How's it going, Mark?
It's going pretty good. How are you, Patrick?
I'm doing well. Feel like I'm thirsty.
Yeah. Did you get water before?
I did get more water.
You have water.
I have water.
Oh, okay, great.
So I have a need, but I also have the remedy for that need.
Yeah, which is ideal.
Right.
Did you know this about the human bladder? Okay, that I always assumed that, like, holding it, right, like it being your pee,
right,
is a good thing. Like, you're like training your bladder.
Oh,
no.
Okay.
No. The best thing you can do is not hold it.
Ever?
I mean,
so the best thing you could do would just constantly be peeing.
I mean,
the second you feel it.
Well, for your bladder,
right.
The best
not socially.
Yes, because so your bladder is like a balloon, and the way that your body knows that it needs to relieve itself is that the balloon expands, and then it basically hits a sensor at the bottom.
Right.
When it expands enough, it hits a sensor that's like, oh, I need to go to the bathroom. But if you're holding it all the time, you're basically stretching your bladder.
Mm-hmm.
So it becomes more and more loose. It becomes looser and looser. And so you get a saggy bladder and it's hitting that sensor all the time. What you want is a tight, taut bladder that is away from that sensor.
See, but to my mind, if you are increasing the size of the bladder, right, so it is a saggy bladder, if you will, I feel like you're just increasing the capacity for it. Like, you can train yourself to be able to hold it longer.
No, because it is so big and saggy, it's hitting that sensor as soon as there's just a tiny bit of pee in it.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
We'll get to Splatoon 2 in a second.
We will. But also, there are very few situations that I am in where I'm like, I have to hold it right now.
Right.
And in a lot of those scenarios, I can just be like, excuse me, I need to use the restroom.
Right.
And no one's going to be like, what's his problem?
Yeah. Get a load of Patrick.
He's always peeing. You can do it pretty much anytime you want.
Pretty much.
Whatever happened to that? We were going to do a show where, like, we drank a lot of water.
An improv show.
Not
a
right.
podcast.
Not a podcast, but an improv show where we drank a lot of water. And then
try to get through the entire set without peeing our pants.
Yeah, it seems like it would be kind of easy, right?
Right.
How much water? I don't think there's an amount of water I could drink that would make me have to pee.
It would be a lot of water.
20 minutes.
It'd be a lot of water.
It would be a lot.
You'd have to do this show where you're like already on the verge of peeing yourself.
Right, and then you would really be the only one having that experience.
Right.
No one else would really know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we never did it.
But
what we are doing
is talking about Splatoon 2.
That's right. It finally came out.
Yes, the Splatoon franchise is no longer marooned on a system that no one is playing. And so, Mark, we both spent the weekend with Splatoon 2.
That's right.
You did not end up picking up a Pro Controller to play this game.
Right? We talked about it in our Tuesday news episode. But the short version, in which you should go listen to if you haven't already, but the short version of it is I had intended to buy the Pro Controller for the Nintendo Switch. And in fact, I had intended to buy a Splatoon 2 Pro Controller, the special edition one. And
with the green and the red.
Right, pink, right? Like pink.
Yeah.
But then I was also playing the Destiny 2 beta this weekend and using my DualShock 4. And I had become so used to playing with the Joy-Con grip that the DualShock 4 felt way too big. I was like, I don't want to play Splatoon 2 on this, so I didn't pick one up.
Fair play to you. Have you been playing it mostly in docked mode on the TV? That's how you play most Switch, right?
That's right. No, and I turned motion controls off the first opportunity I had. And you are playing with a Pro controller, is that right?
Yes.
And have you also been playing mostly in docked mode?
Yeah, I actually haven't played it in handheld yet. I guess I did play a little bit with it out on tabletop mode because I've got a little stand that I put it in. I just did a little bit of that while Sarah was watching TV. I just played it at the table here.
What's your motion control situation?
I use the tilt controls, but they are like my just like refining shots. So I have the sensitivity turned way down on the motion controls.
So you can combine the two?
Yes.
Or I guess ideally you combine the two,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
I haven't used it enough really to like experiment with it and figure out how it works.
Yeah, I mean what it is when you're using motion controls, you're still doing all of the like you can still do as much left and right aiming with the right thumbstick and I yeah up and down too. And then you can just do like little fine motor just aiming shots a little bit better with the motion controls.
Do you think people who use motion controls have an advantage?
I don't know. I had said that about ARMS, but I'm no longer convinced that is true. I think it's kind of just another way to interact with the game. I don't know that it's necessary, but I enjoy it. It doesn't hamper my experience at all to use motion controls a little bit. Do you feel like you're missing out?
No, I don't at all. I didn't even really think about it until we started having this conversation.
Yeah. Do you use like the motion aiming in like Breath of the Wild at all?
No, I turn all that stuff off.
You turn it all off.
I don't really like motion. I have never taken to motion controls.
Yeah.
For like stuff like that.
I like the tilt aiming just for like little extra stuff. I have never been the biggest first person shooter guy. So I feel like I get a little bit of that accuracy back when I can just like jerk the controller a little bit to get there.
I don't trust my coordination.
Sure.
Like so let's talk about and you'll have to help me out here because I didn't play a lot of Splatoon, the original. I played a little bit at your house, but I never owned a Wii U, so never played a lot of Splatoon. Can you tell me there seems like so the world of Splatoon 2, like the physical world is not that big. You're basically in like
it's very small.
You're basically in a like Times Square type shopping plaza area.
Shibuya.
There's some stores that you can buy shoes, shirts, and hats, and weapons.
Yeah.
And then there's like a little alleyway where you eventually can enter Salmon Run. There's the main multiplayer mode straight ahead,
right? And there's a food truck and an arcade and just like
and so how much of that was in? Obviously, you're in a different location, but how much of this was in Splatoon? Like the hat, like the clothing and all that stuff was not a thing, right?
No, sure was. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The like fashion as it relates to like getting little buffs on the various little like traits in the game is totally a part of Splatoon 1. And so yeah, it's even a lot of the same shopkeeps selling stuff for hats and shoes and shirts. And that little clam guy selling weapons, he's the same. The food truck is new. I think that guy used to sell shoes or maybe hats. Now he's got a food truck. And like the arcade is a little bit that's a little bit different than what it was in the original. Obviously there was no Salmon Run in the first game, but a lot of that same idea of like here's a small like city street that's identical from Splatoon 1.
So functionally, does it feel a lot like Splatoon 1.5 to you?
Yes, but I think it feels like if any studio that wasn't Nintendo made a game with a number 2 on it. Like when Nintendo makes a sequel, I expect something so wildly different that to justify it being a new entry in the franchise. But like, I guess counterexample would be Super Mario Galaxy 2. This very much feels like Super Mario Galaxy 1 to Super Mario Galaxy 2. It is a different game full of different experiences, but the building blocks are basically the same. Even though like everything in this game does look a lot nicer than it did on the Wii U. So let's just get into our general impressions. Like, are we enjoying the game? How much time did we put in? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'm loving it so far.
Yeah. How much did you get to play this weekend?
I don't know how many hours I put in. But
are you able to check your last 50 matches on the Nintendo Switch Online app?
Splatnet?
Yeah. That's the
one. Which I guess we can get into it later, but the Nintendo Switch Online app in general, not crazy about. Splatnet, I think, is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So Splatnet is like the game. When you open up the Nintendo Switch Online app, there is, I don't know, like the top 3/4 of it or the top like 2/3 are dedicated to just like, it's a big logo that just says Nintendo Switch Online or something like that.
Right. And then it's like, how do I use this?
Yeah, and then the bottom is like game specific, and Splatnet is down there.
It is currently the only one. And then if you click on this thing that's like the two squids crossed on the bottom, once you go into Splatnet, it'll show you your last 50 battles.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so you've got that filled up. You've played at least 50 battles. What do you know what rank you are right now?
So I am fresh. Right? Is that what you're asking? But I used to be super fresh. I'm level 10.
I am also level 10.
Yeah. I wanted to get to level 10 so I could open up ranked mode, ranked matches.
Mm-hmm.
Because so when you first get into it, you can only do turf war.
Yeah.
You're just doing turf war, and it's crazy. By the end, I was pretty good. Like by the last I was playing before we recorded this, I was consistently like the best in the match.
Yeah.
Which I was not expecting to be.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I feel like there are some times where, and this was true of Splatoon 1, where it's just like sometimes it's just sort of roll of the dice of like how you do, and like matches can they can turn in the last like 20 seconds, where like the field of play that is contested through most of the match just suddenly goes to one side, and then you get such a big reward for being on the winning team that like it really helps you be on the winning team in order to like keep leveling up and stuff.
What's your weapon of choice?
So my weapon of choice in the original was the Zapper, the 85 Zapper. It looks like the Duck Hunt gun.
Mm-hmm.
But I also like dualies because I like that dodge roll that comes with it. And I spent a little bit of time with a paintbrush as well, but I wasn't really happy with the performance I was getting out of it. What are you rolling with?
What, the Aerospray MG?
Yeah. What's a special with that?
It is the what is the special? Splatdown, I think.
Oh, Splatdown's great. Where you like jump up and then like come back down, and it's just like a.
Oh no! With the Aerospray MG, it's you. What are they called? The like bombs that look like curling.
Oh yeah, I think they're called They may be called curling. Something.
Oh, okay, yeah. It's like you
send out these little ink Roombas.
Yes,
yeah.
but you get, when you initiate the super special, you get like a whole tray of them that like are like on your back, and so you can send out like, I don't know what it is, like 10, like one right after the other.
That's great.
And so you can just kind of like carpet bomb the area. So that's what it is with the Aerospray MG.
Yeah, that's
I kind of feel like the Aerospray MG is overpowered.
Yeah,
like I could see them dialing it back in the future.
Well, and that is something that we will see in the weeks ahead as they introduce more weapons. They will find a balance on all of these things. Yeah, because I think that there are some weapons that I think are obviously more useful than others. Like I was saying, I had a real tough time with the paintbrush.
And that's the one that came out Saturday, right? Like the one that was released
Possibly.
like as the first piece of DLC or whatever.
Yeah, that might be right. Yeah, where it's like a variation on the roller, but it's thinner.
Oh, no, that's not sorry, that's not the one I was thinking of. I was thinking of like it's an actual like paintbrush with a brush at the end, not like a roller type thing.
Yeah, no, it is a paintbrush with a brush at the end. I'm not doing a good job of of describing it. I get like where it's different and a little bit more versatile is that you can swing it faster.
Oh, we are talking about the same
Yeah,
thing.
we're talking about the same thing.
We should look up what the actual name of it is.
No, there are too many names to remember in this. And we'll get to them at some point, but I don't know. One of the things that I liked about the first Splatoon and that I'm excited to get into in this one is the kind of fashion element that we were talking about before, where you can find hats and shirts and shoes that you really like and actively upgrade them to give them more slots for more bonuses, and then fill those with bonuses you actually like, which is a process I haven't gotten the chance to really do in this version of the game just yet. Like when you buy something, it's got 1 or 2 slots, and you just sort of earn the bonuses as you play, and you don't really have much say over A, how many slots it has, or B, what those bonuses are going to be. Are you paying much attention to that now, or are you just kind of...
So I am trying to coordinate my outfits to all go for speed when you're when I'm like a squid.
Squid speed.
Squid speed.
So fair warning, or warning, as you stack the ability, the buff goes down. So if you have that same boost twice, the second time it's only 50% as effective.
Oh, and so there's no point in doing like a third one.
I mean, you could, but by that point, it is so low. The boost is so low as to be like kind of not noticeable. Yeah.
So what part of this is different from Splatoon? Because I feel like people were more excited. There was some excitement around this, like around like the clothing items. Is there anything that you're doing different here?
As far as I can tell, it's all the same, the clothing and the fashion stuff. But I think that was such a like surprise fun element of the original Splatoon. I think there's something also so cool about the design aesthetic of this game, that like it's legit fun to see what the new shoes and shirts and hats are. I'm rocking a hat right now that has an 8-bit squid on it, and I don't know. They're wearing stuff that I'm like, I wish I had that in real life, you know?
Also, one of the cool things about Splatnet is there are Splatnet exclusive clothing items that are on a timer. And so you can only pick them up for certain amounts of time, and then you order it on Splatnet, and then you pick it up in the game. It's pretty cool.
Speaking of ordering stuff and doing it online through an app, we're going to pause for a quick break. Okay, so I don't want to talk about Splatnet.com. I want to talk about MacWeldon.com, where you can buy real clothes for your real life, Inkling.
For your real... Yeah.
For your body. Socks, underwear, shorts. You got that hoodie?
Did you say socks?
I don't know.
I think you did. I think that's what you started with.
I think I started with socks. Look, you can go to MacWeldon.com and you can get the softest, the least smelly underwear you're ever going to own by entering promo code Nintendo, and it'll be 20% less than you would have paid otherwise.
And look, if you're not happy with it,
what can you do?
They'll give you your money back.
Yeah.
And you don't have to return your underwear.
And it's not even stinky underwear, because it doesn't get stinky because it's antimicrobial.
Yeah. So the microbes that you do want, fine. The microbes you don't want, they're smelling up your underwear, get rid of those.
Get rid of them by going to MacWeldon.com, entering promo code Nintendo, and start wearing better underwear, in like 3 days. MacWeldon.com, promo code Nintendo. Do you have any clothing items that you're excited about right now? You said you're trying to coordinate them all. Oh, so just for speed.
Yeah. So I've have not been paying attention to aesthetics as much as I've been paying attention to, because there are some that are like dumb, where you're like, these look like Crocs or they're clogs or something,
Right.
but they have a good. So is that random? Like you and I could have the same shoe, but the attributes that it buffs will be different.
So I think the default attribute is the same.
Okay.
But the buffs that they gain, I'm not sure. It's either random or it is based on like a percentage that like this shoe has a tendency towards this, but it could be anything, you know? That's the greater mysteries of that are something that we discovered in the original Splatoon as like people played the game. And the meta game in, manipulating those things and getting the best loadout possible was super deep and almost impenetrable, right? Like the wikis and guides on it are super deep, and you could spend as much time as you could imagine researching it and trying to get it right.
So Turf Wars is like the main mode. It's kind of the one that, you will see in all of the marketing, where you're just trying to ink the most area.
Yeah, it is Splatoon's deathmatch, as it were. Like, it is the version of the game to play.
And you have to play it a lot in order to level up to level 10 so you can start playing some of the other modes. Did you have a chance to check out very many of those?
Not in Splatoon 2, no.
But they're very similar to the ones that are in Splatoon?
Yeah, so I think right now Rainmaker and Tower Defense are the ranked mode types right now. Yeah, I played both those in the original Splatoon.
So if you're familiar with the game or you're familiar with Splatoon, you will be familiar with some of the limitations of the online, specifically that they do 2 maps at a time.
Yeah.
And
per mode.
Right. 2 maps at a time per mode, and it's on a cycle of 2 hours. So for 2 hours, you'll be playing the same maps over and over and over again.
Right.
How do you feel about that, Patrick?
It doesn't bother me at all. I feel like whenever I'm playing another like online shooter or something like that, that I end up playing the same like maps over and over again anyway, because there only are ever like 3 or 4 maps that people want to play. And I sort of like the forced, like, I guess it's not forced variety, it's the opposite. Where like for 2 hours you're gonna really get into Port Mackerel or like Maury Towers or wherever. And I don't know, I like it. It really works for me. Do you feel that it's too limiting?
Yeah, I get the complaints. This is like my first time really playing a lot of Splatoon, and I don't hate it, because one thing that happened is I got really good at like the 2 maps that were going on right now. The downside is if there's a map in there that you're not that excited about,
you just got to play it over.
You just have to play it over and over and over again. I feel like, but in a lot of ways, this game, for some reason, the way that Nintendo has decided to design Splatoon 2 is by like this sort of like curation.
Yes.
Where they are only going to divvy it out a little bit at a time.
So and not just like with an ongoing suite of like levels that they add to it or weapons or whatever, but like that you have the whole game, but at any given time you only have access to pieces of it.
Right.
And that's true of Salmon Run as well.
Right. And Salmon Run's a whole new mode in Splatoon 2. It's kind of like Nintendo's take on Horde mode, where it's just waves of enemies, but it's only 3 or 4 waves at a time.
It's short. And I think that's good, because it keeps it like consistent with how like Turf War or even like a ranked match goes, that like you're never playing Splatoon for like a long like one game for a long stretch.
Yeah,
I wish it was.
I wish it was longer. Dives? So basically, the way it works is you have enemies come and you have to kill them, and you get like, I don't even know what those are, but basically like points or coins for doing so.
Yeah.
And then there are some boss enemies that they have special abilities, and the way you take them down differs depending on the boss. and they drop these orbs, and then you have to take the orbs to a central location, and each round lasts, I don't know, maybe like a minute and a half or something.
Yeah, maybe 3 minutes.
Like that's probably it's probably longer. Yeah, it's probably like 3 minutes, and then you have to kill a certain number, or you have to kill bosses so you can collect a certain number of orbs in that time limit, and each wave it becomes higher and higher, like the amount you need to get.
And if you die at any point in these, your teammates can revive you by just like inking the area where you died. You're like a little soul in an inner tube, which is super cute.
And you can move around and get closer to them. But if you all wipe, then it's
that's
game
the end
over.
of it, right?
And I really like Salmon Run.
Yeah.
When I was first started, I was playing more Salmon Run than I was Turf War.
Yeah.
And I think it helped me become more comfortable with some of the different guns or like different weapons that you have.
Yeah, because that is a feature of Salmon Run, is that it randomly assigns you one of the 4 weapons that's in that like specific set of Salmon Run every wave.
Yeah, so you can see which set of weapons it is. It's like 4 weapons.
Yeah.
And you'll be randomly assigned one of those. Although if you're doing a private mode, you can choose.
Sure.
But playing online with strangers, you cannot. And so I really like Salmon Run, but sometimes you get with like a really good group.
Yeah.
And I would wish it went a little bit longer. Like I think it'd be cool if it was an actual horde mode where you just keep going until you fail.
Just keep getting waves
instead of it being. I mean, I guess that's probably harder to balance. And I'm not complaining because I like Salmon Run as it is, but I also wish there was this other version of it that you could just, because sometimes you're like, oh, we could destroy if we kept going.
Yeah.
And it's a bummer to get, like, you just do the 3 or 4 waves and then you get kicked out. And then those people are like scattered to the wind.
Right. You never hear from them again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it would be cool if there was like a Salmon Run endurance mode or something. I think that is something that we could still see down the line. Like a lot of the like ranked match modes were not part of the original Splatoon when it rolled out. It wasn't until weeks later that we got like Rainmaker and Tower Defense and all of those. So if we were to get new versions or new takes on Salmon Run or any of really anything, I would not be surprised to see any content added to Splatoon 2.
Because there's only one map in Salmon Run right now.
Yeah, maybe.
I think there's only one, although the geography changes
a
little bit
with the tide.
Like the water level and stuff like that. The weird thing about Salmon Run, and again, this goes along with everything else Nintendo is doing with Splatoon, where it's a little bit here, a little bit there, and then they'll take stuff away, is sometimes Salmon Run just won't be going. You just are not able to do Salmon Run.
Yes. And so that's actually part of what makes me think that it's possible that there are other Salmon Run maps and we just haven't seen them yet. That like, because you can check the Salmon Run schedule on Splatnet, and Marina and Pearl will tell you when you start up the game whether Grizzco or whatever it's called is hiring, which means that Salmon Run is a feature that is available during that time. I have yet to run into an opportunity where I've wanted to play Salmon Run and it's not been available.
Well, it was available all last weekend. The first time it went away was last Monday. It's gone, and then Tuesday I think it came back.
Okay. So I'm sure it will happen to me at some point that I want to hop on and play Salmon Run and will be frustrated at my inability to do so. But so far it hasn't hit me. I have not had an opportunity to do any like local multiplayer with this thing.
Me either. You're the only other. Well, that's not true. My boss finally got a Switch.
Hey.
But before that, you were the only other person I knew that had a Switch, I think.
Okay, so should we talk about the matchmaking component of this thing yet, or do we want to stay positive for a little while?
Let's stay positive.
Okay.
Let's talk about the single player campaign.
And
then we can go back to talk about
matchmaking.
The matchmaking.
Right.
So the single player campaign seems to build off of a story that was established in Splatoon.
So not just a story that it's established in Splatoon, but also like the result of one of these Splatfests in the original Splatoon.
Right, was it the final one?
The final Splatfest, yeah,
Yeah.
is where you just straight choose Callie versus Marie. And who is it that you actually interact with in Splatoon 2? Callie?
I think it's Callie.
It's Callie. So Marie's gone missing, and it's because she lost the Splatfest in Splatoon 1, and so you are seeking her out. But it's sort of in the background of that, there is this ongoing war between the Inklings and the Octarians, which are like octopus people, and the Zapfish, which is a eel of some sort that seems to power all of Inkopolis, has gone missing. If this all sounds insane, it's because it is. And the game's got such cool, crazy mythology, and it walks you through like some of it, but it's really, you have a really like cursory experience of the story, right? It's mostly just through like you pick up these little scrolls within the levels that give a little bit of information, and Callie talks to you along the way, as does that little Sheldon guy.
This is the most overused like comparison. So forgive me up front, but it's a lot like Bloodborne or Demon Souls in that way, where it's you're just kind of gleaning the story from the world.
Yeah, and it's a story about the world and not about specific characters, right?
Yeah.
You're playing as Inkling Boy or Inkling Girl. That's not there's no arc you're following there. But the actual gameplay, what are your impressions of that? I played through the entirety of Splatoon 1 single player, and I got through just like the first world of Splatoon 2. But I'm curious as to what your experience is with it.
It's fun. I don't love it. I feel compelled to continue just because I'm interested in the world and I like seeing the bosses and all that kind of stuff. But the actual mechanics of the level themselves, I'm not. It uses the like weapons and I don't know, this idea of like you're inking stuff in interesting ways, but I'm not bowled over by it.
So I actually really like the way it uses all of that stuff. It seems weirdly detached from like how you use inking and mobility in any of the multiplayer modes.
Totally.
But I almost like that to the point where like I would love to see a like full-blown campaign that's less like abstract and more just like, I don't know. I could see that blown out in a way that I would really enjoy it, in less of like a course-based kind of way.
Yeah, the part that I actually enjoy the most in the single player is getting to the courses.
Yeah.
Because they're kind of just like, I don't even know how you describe it, like mini open world levels that you have to traverse and figure out how you're supposed to get to the individual like course levels.
Yeah, because there are surfaces that you can ink and surfaces that you can't ink, and there are those like little tubes, those like strings of connecting ink that you can travel
little
along.
Like treadmill things that
can boost you.
Yeah, so it's like you'll see one or you'll see where you think there's like an entrance to a level, and then you have to figure out how you're going to traverse it in order to get there. And I like that more than I like the actual levels themselves are just corridors basically. That you're like, I have to get from point A to point B, and I'll have to ink something in order to get there, and there's some enemies to take down, and it's fine. It's not unfun. Like I'm enjoying, like I am playing it and I'm enjoying it.
Yeah,
but I would not buy the game specifically to play this.
Right. Well, and I think that is actually one of Splatoon 2's biggest strengths, is that it has a bunch of different modes that I find interesting.
Totally.
Like, I like Turf War. I'm excited to get into the ranked battle modes. Salmon Run is fun. I like the fashion stuff, and the single player is also, I enjoy it too. So there's always something to do. How far did you get in the single player?
I think I'm in like the third or fourth world.
Okay,
something like that. Yeah.
Cool. I think it's interesting that like you encounter mechanics like the those treadmill things in the single player campaign that you don't experience in Turf War at all.
Right.
And that was true in the original as well, until some of the DLC or like the new levels started introducing some of those concepts back into the multiplayer. So like those things that I was having a hard time describing before, where it's just like electrical wires of ink that you can travel across.
Yeah, it's like or if we're talking about the same thing, it's like a ink cannon, basically, right?
Yeah.
Or like a fountain of ink that shoots a very steady stream
Mhm.
that you can hop onto and ride.
Right,
There-
like it's a rail.
And there are some of those in the Turf Wars currently.
Yes, but they were not in the original set of levels. So like it would be cool if in future Splatoon 2 levels we saw those like treadmill things that like launch you in a direction. It makes me excited that there are more mechanics for them to use in the multiplayer.
So let's talk about
Let's do
online.
Let's talk about the online. So just from a before like using the app, did you have any problems with like getting booted from matches or not getting matched up in any way?
No, I didn't, which I was really happy about, because when we were talking about the pre-release Splatfest, I did have a lot of problem connecting or getting booted, and I haven't run into that at all with the release of the actual game. How about you?
No, I have also not been booted from anything. And sometimes it takes just like a little bit to get like that eighth person in the room or whatever. But nothing egregious. You know, I just sit there and mess around on my phone for a little bit. My buddy Pete, I know, was having a little bit of a tough time with getting booted on Saturday. But I think that was righted by Sunday.
So here's my overall thing with Splatoon 2's online.
Let's hear it.
If you are not trying to play with friends, it's great.
Right. Or if you're trying to play really passively with friends. Really passively.
Really passively.
Like, because you can do the thing where you can just see which of your friends are also playing Turf War and just sort of follow them.
Right.
You won't be matched. You'll be like in the same room with them. No guarantee that you'll be on the same team. You are unable to communicate with each other in any way.
You can't. There are times where you'll join and then just sit at a screen. It's like, we'll put you in this lobby as soon as like a space opens up.
Whenever that is.
So if like I played the majority of this just with strangers, not trying to form a team or anything, and it was fine. It is frustrating that like, again, like even if is there a way in Splatnet or something or in the game itself that if there were people that I enjoyed playing with, that I could send them a friend request or contact them in some way?
I don't. And even if you could, I don't know. Even if you could send them a friend request, you have very few ways to communicate with people who are your friends on the Switch.
Right.
Like basically all you can do is invite them into a room that you can then speak to them on the app.
Yeah, because you can't send messages or anything on the Switch itself.
Right. And like it's a, common Nintendo-ism, but like it sure would be nice even just to be able to like throw down some like emotes or something, right?
Right.
Like there was a little bit where I was playing and Fodl had selected me as like a friend that he was going to follow. And like, there's no way for me to acknowledge that, like, Fodl, I see you, other than picking up my phone and texting him and being like, hey, Fodl.
And look, don't get me wrong. I don't miss voice chat with randoms.
Right.
Like, I am totally fine with that.
Yes, me too.
But just being some way to communicate with other players and to make friends, because I understand that Nintendo's really worried about privacy and about protecting people, and I'm like on board for that, and so I accept like the limitations. That being said, I feel like in some ways part of the fun of playing online is meeting people that you wouldn't otherwise have met.
Yeah,
like
for sure.
And like becoming friends with them, even if it's just friends that when you're both playing Splatoon, you like hop in together.
Right. And I think that would be especially helpful or useful or whatever in Salmon Run, right? it would be very nice to be able to just when you mentioned this before, that like you get in with a group of 3 people and you're like, hey, this is great, we should keep doing this together, and then like nope, your waves are over and now you're with new weirdos. Like I get the idea of like not wanting to encourage like super teams just like roving through turf war, but like Salmon Run is something that you're doing, with other people for yourselves and not in a competitive way. So we also tried to do create a lounge, lobby, whatever they're called, just to see like what functionality that offers. And like I can set up a room, but the only people that will be in that room or that can participate with players in that room are people that I invite into it.
So, and do you do that through the app exclusively?
No, you do it through the game.
So what is the app used for? Just for setting up voice chat?
I think just for executing voice chat.
Just for executing voice chat. So so inviting friends to the room, all that kind of stuff happened exclusively on the Switch.
In
game.
Now that you say that, I don't remember.
Oh, okay.
The experience wasn't super intuitive, and I, had the Pro Controller in one hand and the my phone in the other, trying to balance and figure this thing out.
So I got a notification on my phone when you...
on your phone?
Okay. When you invited me. So that's how I knew that, because I wasn't online. I wasn't playing.
Okay, yeah, interesting.
Yeah, so I got a notification on my phone, but I had to go into the game to join
accept it. Okay.
Yeah. So, and again, like, we had 3 people.
Yeah.
Right? It was you, me, and Pete.
Right.
And we could do 2-on-1 matches if we wanted to, but you couldn't do anything else. It's not like the 3 of us could travel to Turf War and then play together.
Right. Which would be ideal. Like,
it's a crazy limitation to me that you can't do that.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, there may be... I do feel like we have not experienced all of it yet, and there are probably ways where like 2 of us can get together and join another pair in like ranked battle or something. Like I think the ranked stuff takes the matchmaking a little bit more seriously, but like I don't know, Turf War seems like the game's bread and butter, and we should be able to experience that any way we want to, right? Like you, me, and Pete should be able to jump in and say, the 3 of us want to play together. We all want to be on the same team. Or the 3 of us want to play together. It doesn't matter what teams we're on. Or the 3 of us want to play together. Mark and I want to be on the same team, and Pete has to be on the other team. Like the game should be better about just catering to how we want to play it, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And the same. I'm excited to tackle Salmon Run with like you, me, and 2 other people that we know. But I wish there was a way to just be like, it's just me and Mark, and then 2 other weirdos who are playing together.
Right. Voice chat itself, fine.
Yeah. It doesn't. I mean, it functions like voice chat.
I actually really like the I think the design of the Nintendo Switch Online app is nice.
It is not dissimilar to the waiting like lobby area in ARMS, right?
Right.
Where we just like see the icons kind of lazily floating
around, and then like when one of us was talking, it would like our icon or like avatar would get a little bit bigger.
Yeah, just kind of bubble up.
Dumb things about it.
Yes.
It has to always be on.
That's right.
And and as in like you cannot put your phone in sleep mode.
Right. The screen needs to be on.
Yeah.
And it needs to be like the active app.
Right. If you get a notification, you go to like answer the text, or you go to like look something up online, you will be disconnected.
Right. That's bad.
Also, something that's interesting, like I don't mind it in Splatoon, but I think it is worth mentioning, is that if you're playing in a lobby and everybody's in the voice chat, once you're separated into teams, you can only communicate
That's
with
right.
your team.
That's right. So there was a moment when Mark and I were experimenting with this where I put us into a 2-man turf war, 1-on-1,
And we could not communicate with each other. Even though we were in the voice chat lobby together, we couldn't talk to each other.
That's right. So that's a strange use case. I don't recommend it. But yeah, weird limitation, right? Again, if it just offered like, do you want like how do you want the chat to be divided? Like only teammates or with everyone? That some options would be nice.
Especially
some modernization.
Well, especially when it's your own room that you are making.
Yeah.
Then you should be able to. I wonder if it's like a technological limitation because if it's your own room, they don't have to worry about abuse. They should be able to just be like, okay, you can do it however you want. That's obviously not the Nintendo way.
Right.
But
you can do it however you want is not the Nintendo way.
The weird thing is that I guess because I'm used to playing it in isolation, that it didn't bother me that the online features weren't more robust most of the time, except when we were trying to get them to work.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's just it, is that like the game does for as much as like, yeah, you could probably form a more efficient team if you're like calling out directions and being like, I need help over here, or like, hey, did anyone ink this area, whatever. There's something just rewarding about like running around and, inking the hell out of a map, right? Like you can help each other in like intuitive ways. The game is very visual, so you don't necessarily need to verbally communicate with your team.
Right. It's not like Call of Duty or something like that.
Right.
Where you might be staking out different areas and you would be giving somebody a heads up.
Right.
Right. You can visually see very easily how your team is performing.
Right. And like where you're performing well and where people need help. And there are super quick emotes as well that you can say. I mean, they're limited to like this way, ouch, and booyah.
The like building blocks of all human communication.
Yeah, that's right. The first words that are developed in every language, ouch and booyah.
But I mean, really, it kind of comes back to what I was saying before, where if you are looking to play online with strangers, it's a totally fine experience. I think the frustration comes when you're trying to play with friends and you cannot do it in intuitive ways.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, Mark and I are both relatively intelligent human beings. We've been playing games online for as long as that's been a thing. We should be able to figure it out, right? There shouldn't be so much resistance for us to have like a positive online experience with Splatoon 2.
So I'm hoping to see, again, this is the first game that the Nintendo Switch Online app has launched with. There is a place where you can send feedback to the developers. I think it's worthwhile. Just remember to be kind, because the people reading your comments are not the people that are making these decisions.
And honestly, if you think that the people developing this app need to have some like basic stuff spelled out for them, you're probably right. So like spell it out carefully. Don't don't assume that they should know everything. So yeah, constructive criticism, I think.
Yeah, but I'm hoping to see it improve. And I'll be interested to see what it looks like now versus what it looks like when online officially launches in 2018. I'm not holding my breath for big changes because, I mean, Nintendo's made it pretty clear what kind of online experience they want their consoles to have.
Yeah, limited.
But I definitely think we will see it change and improve.
Here's the thing. I do like some of the more superficial qualities of Splatnet. Like just playing, I have it up right now and I can see my stats.
Splatnet, I think, is great.
Yeah, just the communication part and the matchmaking.
Yeah. And so it'll be interesting to see what other games have like a Splatnet type thing. Like, is it just going to be Nintendo first party titles? Will we see third party titles using it?
Man, I mean did we talk about this already? That like it would be neat if there was a more generic third party one, or a third party like app that everyone else used within the Switch Online app. But yeah, I mean, I think we need to see like Mario Kart and ARMS in this thing. There really isn't other aren't other like big Nintendo online games coming out the rest of the year, right?
Right.
Like we're looking at like, Mario Rabbids and Mario Odyssey.
Right, and I don't think there's online co-op for Fire Emblem Warriors or anything.
Yeah, that would be weird. So yeah, it seems like now would be the time to build in some of that compatibility for the already launched online games, and to make this a little bit more robust, and then a lot more robust. Well, that's great. So I think we're both coming down pretty positive on Splatoon 2 in general, right?
Yeah, I'm loving it. I was so hyped for this game before it came out. I was so ready for it.
Mm-hmm.
And now that it's released, like, I'm having a ton of fun. I would recommend it to anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think it that you need to be good at shooters necessarily. And I'm sure I'm beating a dead horse here, but I love having a game that is so like fast and arcadey and action packed without being violent at all. They've got guns, but they're squirt guns basically. And the goal is never to kill your opponents. It's always ink more ground than them.
You can be really good at this game and not have to like.
Oh yeah,
you can be very high scoring and never like kill an opponent,
which we call splatting.
Splatting
them. All right, Mark. Any final thoughts on Splatoon 2?
No, I'm cannot wait to see. When we're recording this, the Japanese sales haven't been announced yet. And I can't wait to see how it just like destroys that country.
I'm sure we're going to revisit Splatoon a couple times on the show, just because we'll be playing. Check out. We should put our friend codes in here too. Again, if you're listening and you're playing, like, add us as friends, and we'll try to set up like rooms and stuff. Like, this is a game that I want to play, and I want to play with people. And it seems like it'll be super fun. All right, that is going to do it for this Splatoon 2 focused episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society.
We'd love to hear your thoughts about Splatoon 2.
Would love to hear them. Or if you have any comments about anything, you can write to us at Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com. Or you can hit us up on Twitter or Facebook. We are NinCart Society on Twitter. And the Facebook page is just Nintendo Cartridge Society. If you have a second to rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes, that would be wonderful. If you like this episode, please share us on any of those platforms. It helps us out, no matter how little reach you think you have. We also have little reach, so every little bit helps. If you like Mark and Mine's opinions, we also write about comic books on retconpunch.com. Olivia Duncan made our logo. Our music is 8-Bit Betty. Here it is. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Ellers saying the thing about the hook and don't get cooked. Just saying that. Thanks for listening.